My name is Cynthia, and I was 21 at the time of this story. I was told I could find someone to be my boyfriend on a dating app called Tinder by my friends that tried it. They kind of pressured me into it, to be honest, but then again, I was a bit naive. I met Jake on Tinder because he messaged me. I thought he was being pushy, but my friend saw the message and told me to go for it. I met Jake in real life at the mall a little while later. I wanted to wait, but again, he was a little pushy and I was naive. He was a cool guy and all. But I did notice some red flags that I did not pay attention to. My friends did not accompany me to the mall and this meetup, but I was fine with it. There would be people around for the most part. Well, the meetup turned out to be our first date, but he was insistent on paying for everything, which I was perfectly fine with. The biggest red flag was that he thought it was okay to go in for a first kiss when we barely knew each other. He also hinted at he wanted to come over and screw on the first date as well. All this aside, he didn't force me, but he did make me feel like I was letting him down. After a few weeks, I decided I wanted to date him past all of those things. I dated him for around 6 months, but in that time, his true colors came out. He was finally really mean to me around his friends, and he was very abusive. This was my first ever boyfriend, so I really did not know how to handle it. I ended up breaking with him for the simple fact that he started to get violent when we were alone. I never wanted this, so I stopped it. Once I broke up with him, he would not go away. I lived with my mom down the street from him, so it was hard not to see him occasionally, but he would come up to the house and bother me there. It started out that he would come over and try to talk me into going back out with him and going on dates and such, but I would always tell him to piss off. He would always spin out his tires whenever we had that kind of reaction, and it would put a knot in my stomach. The creepy thing that he did was at night when he would come up and look through the windows. I started keeping the curtains closed, but I would always find footprints outside in the dirt where he had tried. I was done and over this, but before I could do anything about it or catch him doing anything, he broke into the house. I was sitting on my bed one night, about to go to sleep. I heard the back window open since it makes a squeaking sound, and then something hit the ground. I started freaking out, but by the time I knew what was happening, he was already in my room trying to talk to me. I asked him how could he think it was okay to break into my house, and he mentioned that we were still together. I kept telling him that we were not, and told him to get the fuck out. But unbeknownst to either of us, Mom had called the police. He was arrested for breaking and entering, harassment, and stalking. After all of this, he still tried to come up to the house to harass me. I just could not get rid of him, so I filed a restraining order against him. He wasn't too happy about that, but you know what? It worked. So that was the end of my first boyfriend. He eventually stopped trying to contact me, but I'm sure that he found some other unfortunate girl to mangle and mentally abuse. Hopefully, he grows up at some point and takes a long, hard look at his life, because he's going to end up in jail for possibly murdering his significant other. He fits the profile as well. I wonder what life would have been like for me had I never met Rachel. She was pure evil, but was able to hide it until we moved in with one another. I was fresh out of high school and looking for a girlfriend, so I tried Tinder. Tinder was a nightmare, but through all the supposed bots I found her. Rachel was a redheaded girl that I was instantly attracted to. We talked, and such, for the next few months, and then talked about meeting up. Our meetup was kind of forced when she came running up to me in a public place. I was at Walmart, of all places, and she recognized me from my profile picture. Since then, we'd been talking on the phone because we had exchanged phone numbers. A little while later, we talked about getting a place together because I was about to be kicked out of my parents' house for turning 18, and she was looking to leave the shithole she was in. We moved in a one-bedroom apartment with a bath and a super tiny kitchen. Not ideal, but it worked for us, I guess. We barely made enough for rent, but we were out on our own, and we had each other. A few months down the road, things started getting a little hectic. She lost her job at the burger place, and I was holding on all the bills alone with my gas station job. We started failing hard. I really wanted to find a better job, but we lived in a small town where there were barely any businesses, and they were all full. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for wanting to live in the backwoods. My parents were not too smart on that decision. They moved out to a shitty little town and expected me to flourish. So after Rachel lost her job, all she did was sit around and feel sorry for herself. I was fine with it since I didn't want to be my parents and jab at her to get a job, but she did it for months. She sat there in bed. From time to time, we got up until the time I got home from work. She would then make dinner or order something we really could not afford. I never really complained about it since all she would do is YOLO. Bills were piling up on us, and she didn't care. I also found out she would throw the bills away so that I didn't see them. I still wonder why she would do this. It made no sense. At some point, we would lose the services we had and go into debt. Why hide that from me? She started to spend money we did not have on shit from Wish.com, buy little things that she would play with for a day or two and lose. I drew the line when she brought home a puppy we could not afford to feed. I made her give him to someone, and she hated me since then. I was serious. I would not abuse an animal like that if I could not afford to feed it. Rachel started hanging out somewhere else. She would come home every night, but she'd been gone all day. I was worried that she might be cheating on me. But at this point, I think our relationship was pretty much done anyway. I approached her to ask her if we were still together, and she would always say, "Yes, of course." I asked her where she was going every day since she wasn't going to work, and she told me that she was going to work. I wanted to know where, but she could not tell me. That was a stalemate, and I got nowhere. I kept bringing up her job applications from places she had asked me to go to, but I'd always find them in the trash the next day. She did not even fill them out. I confronted her about this as well, but she started getting violent on me, and would yell and scream at me about pushing her away. None of it made any sense. I finally got tired of it and told her that I was moving out, and she should find a place to go. She started really acting out. I had to leave early because she started actually hitting me with objects. I wasn't going to take her abuse, so I got out and lived on the streets for a few weeks until a friend let me have his couch. In that time, Rachel found me out in public to try to browbeat me, but I would hide from her every time I saw her. She claimed that she was going to do much better without me, but I could smell that she wasn't showering. I knew better. After I got back on my feet, I moved out of state with my friend and started a new life somewhere else away from her. Now, I have no contact with her, and a house all to myself with a decent job. She is probably couch hopping at the moment in the same place with the same horrible attitude she gave me. Maybe if she woke up and stopped loathing in her own filth, she'd be able to get somewhere.